welcome everyone to this week's review. As always, I want to thank everyone who's watched my previous videos, and a special thanks to all my subscribers. With that out of the way, on to this week's review, which is X-Men Dark Phoenix. Written and directed by Simon Kinberg and starring Sophie Turner, James McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence, Michael Fassbender, Alexander Shipp, Ty Sheridan, and Nicholas Hoult, this film follows Jean Grey as she begins to develop incredible powers that corrupt and turn her into the Dark Phoenix. The X-Men must then decide if the life of a team member is worth more than that of the world. Before I get into my thoughts on Dark Phoenix, I want to give you my overall views on the X-Men franchise as a whole. Good, great, okay, trash, great, good, great, okay, and amazing. Also, before I begin, I want to say that I don't really like comparing certain comic lines to the films of the same name. Because they're different forms of media, films don't necessarily have to follow the comics to be good. I enjoyed Age of Ultron, Civil War, and Infinity War, even though all three differ greatly from the comics. To me, as long as the film captures the spirit or the essence of what it's adapting, changes are obviously welcome. With all that said, unfortunately, Dark Phoenix doesn't really tell a convincing story or capture the spirit of the original comic. This film just felt lazy. While the film opens with an intriguing and heartfelt flashback and an action scene that does feel intense and suspenseful, most of what comes after just feels either forced or unearned. It seems that this film forgets where the last one left off, including the comic-accurate costumes we saw our characters in, and the fact that Jean already had the Phoenix inside her at the end of Apocalypse. And even though the X-Men franchise isn't really known for following their own continuity, it's never felt so blatant, except maybe in X-Men Origins. Also, while most of the performers are pretty good, I feel that Sophie Turner just wasn't able to pull off switching between an all-powerful cosmic entity and someone who is vulnerable and afraid of what they're becoming. No other development is really even attempted for the other characters, besides Jean and Charles. And certain character motivations just seem to change on a dime. This film also adds a secondary villain outside the Dark Phoenix that just comes off as more of a distraction than an actual threat. To me, the Dark Phoenix should have been the villain in this film, and the conflict should have come from whether certain X-Men wanted to either help Jean or kill Jean. And while there is some of that there, it's almost completely dropped in the final third. Now, I know it seems like I outright hated this film, but there are a couple of enjoyable aspects. There are a few funny lines. Also, many of the action scenes are pretty intense, raw, and actually fun to watch these characters use their powers. I also believe this is one of the first times that you actually see Professor X use his powers mid-battle. And if it's not the first in the film, then it's definitely one of the best, as he's stopping certain characters from doing anything to protect others. But none of that really matters when you aren't invested in these characters or compelled by the story. In the end, when an X-Men film doesn't even know what the X in X-Men stands for, how can it possibly be trusted to adapt one of that comic's most iconic storylines? As I stated earlier, the film just feels lazy, with rushed character moments, including some deaths, and an unearned story. And even with a few funny lines and decent action set pieces, this film just does not feel compelling or interesting or really that fun, and is why I believe that X-Men Dark Phoenix earns an F letter grade. Now hopefully, if you're a huge X-Men fan and you just want to see these characters going at it, you might find some enjoyment in this film. So, those are my thoughts on the film. Let me know your thoughts on the film or the drawing in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon to be notified anytime I release a new video. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.